Am I the A for upsetting my coworker? By calling her work sister after she called me work husband during an office happy hour in front of everyone. June 27, 2024. I, 34 years old, work in a small office with about 30 people. Mary, 35 years old, is one of my coworkers. We have been working together for 6 years now. Our department has 6 people, and we frequently travel across the state for government projects. We always travel in pairs, and although my travel partner changes based on the project, Mary and I are generally assigned to similar projects and enjoy each other's company. My wife also likes Mary. Overall, we have a very healthy work relationship. On to the incident. Yesterday, we had a happy hour at our office, and we were all drinking after work hours and chatting. A group of around 10 people stayed back. Mary was talking about how much we have traveled together in the last year. She was roasting me for my travel habits, like always forgetting stuff in my hotel room and being sweaty and stinky at breakfast because I go to the hotel gym. Everyone was laughing, and she made it sound like I was unbearable to travel with, all in good fun. I also shared some funny and sweet stories about her and agreed that I can be difficult to travel with sometimes. Mary came to me, hugged me tightly, and told me that she loves me and that I am her work husband. Although it was innocent on the surface, she might have been a bit drunk and didn't let go of her tight hug. I also hate that phrase because I have a wife whom I promise to be with forever, not just during non-working hours. After a few seconds, I started feeling uncomfortable and noticed a few people staring at us. To diffuse the situation, I gently took her hands off my shoulders and told her she was my work sister and that's why I love to annoy her so much. This upset Mary, and she left, went back to her desk and sobbed silently. I tried to apologize, but she expressed how embarrassing the whole situation was. She said she meant work husband in a platonic way, but calling her work sister made her sound like a creep in front of the office. She was also angry that I removed her hands from my shoulders while hugging. I tried to explain that I disliked the work husband phrase and noticed people giving dirty looks when she said it. I was just trying to ensure people didn't take her words the wrong way. We talked for a few minutes afterward and Mary calmed down. She hugged me again and left. I felt really guilty afterward because I saw Mary's point. I made her sound like a creep by implying she meant something inappropriate by calling me her work husband. However, I was uncomfortable in that situation and didn't want people to call us that or assume something wrong. Am I the asshole for calling Mary my work sister? I am sitting in my office writing this and worried if I embarrassed Mary in front of everyone. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. You're not the A. All too often, work spouses end up being inappropriately involved and you were trying to head off any rumors. Good on you. I think work sister is a much better term. Commenter 2. You didn't do anything wrong. Not the A. To my mind, she raises a red flag by being so upset about it. It meant more to her than it did to you. You may need to set a boundary of not traveling with her. Commenter 3. Not the A though, you're being far too generous. The reason why she jumped straight to thinking you were calling her a creep, because she knew what she was doing was inappropriate. Work husband is considered widely inappropriate now. She knows this, you responded correctly. You owe your actual wife loyalty. Mary needs to back off and act more of a professional. Commenter 4. Not the A. I think you were justified that whole time. Unfortunately, alcohol can make things awkward for everyone, but you were made uncomfortable by the extended hug, so you removing her arms from you was understandable. The problem right now is that Mary is only considering her own feelings and not thinking at all how her actions made you feel. She did think that such a public display of affection might make a married man uncomfortable. She's only thinking that you made her look like a creep. And let's be honest, she did kind of look like someone hitting on a married man after drinking too much. Commenter 5. Not the A. Work sister is 100% a compliment. Work husband is the stuff that will get a person reported to HR. Mary is waving bright red flags. You might want to get ahead of this now, all your colleagues are suspicious. No more being paired with Mary. Consider telling your wife before one of them does. Commenter 6. The best way to know that you needed to set a limit was her overreacting. Sobbing at her desk. It was time to stop it. If she tries to bring it up again, repeat what you said. She's a great co-worker, but you only have one wife, so you don't do the work-wife jokes. Nothing personal, but it's not for you. If she brings it up a second time, you'll need to email your supervisor to get written documentation. You just describe what happened, as you did above, when and where, and that you'd like them to informally coach her on letting it go. If she brings it up a third time, you'll need to go to HR and ask to be taken off projects involving travel with her. I really hope she can pull it together and that she can join you in cheerfully going back to work. But remember that it's her making this weird, not you, and your first responsibility is to preserve your own employment. Commenter 7. Mary's point only is valid if Mary is humiliated by a sisterly relationship when she was going for more. The I love you, the long emotional hug not letting go, says OP needs to be paired with someone else on work trips for a while. And OP, shower before breakfast in public. Mary is not the only one who can smell your body odor or who has to sit in the chair you were sweating in. No one needs that much visibility into your body smells and fluids. Too much closeness. Editor's note. I looked through the comments and didn't find a single "you're the asshole, everyone sucks here," or "no assholes here." It was universally not the asshole. Update, July 2nd, 2024. I posted this about calling my coworker Mary my work sister after she tried to call me her work husband in front of the entire office. A lot of you are asking for an update, but that sub does not allow me to post an update, so I'm writing it here. Thanks everyone for your comments and giving me confidence that I did not do anything wrong or inappropriate. As I was sitting in the office the next day, I knew things would be a bit awkward between Mary and me. Mary ignored me the whole morning. Initially, I was planning to go and apologize to her, but after the post, I decided that I do not need to do that as I should be the one who was offended. Everyone in the office could see that we were acting weird, and I heard some people gossiping about us. One of the ladies also came to me and asked me if I wanted to talk about Mary and me. Around 3 p.m. in the afternoon, I was sitting in my office working. Mary came into my office and closed the door behind her. She was angry at me and started saying that I need to stop being an asshole and stop ignoring her. I told her to sit and to talk about what is going on. She told me that she feels humiliated, and everyone has been staring at her the whole morning because of what I did. I also stood my ground and told her that I was okay with her making fun of me, but calling me her work husband and hugging me in front of everyone for a long time made the situation awkward. She told me to get over myself and that I should know exactly what she meant. Mary said that I made a big deal of what was supposed to be a joke and made it awkward for everyone. She said calling someone work husband is a normal thing and just means that she knows me intimately like a spouse would. She said that because we spend so much time traveling together, she knows all the intimate details of how I behave outside work. I stopped her and told her that I felt offended by the term work husband, because I have a wife and I do not want people to use that term to describe our relationship. I told her that she would not understand as she is single, but as a married man, I really do not want anyone to describe me as a husband in any capacity. She said that I am again misinterpreting what she was saying. She felt that as we have known each other more times than I have been married, she knows me more intimately than even my wife. I have no idea why she feels that way, and I also behave like her husband when we travel together. She went on about how we go out to dinners together after work, how I always insist on having breakfast together in the morning, to plan our actions of the day, and I walk around in my underwear, referring to my gym shorts, around her in the mornings. She also talked about how we spend hours talking to each other during road trips and how I am the only man she can trust with any secret in her life. She said that I am the definition of a work husband, and I am just in denial. I was a bit angry at this point. I told her that I do all that because I consider her my friend and she is delusional if she feels she knows me more intimately than my wife. I told her I do not want to hear that term again and it is extremely disrespectful to my marriage. Only one woman gets to call me her husband and that is my wife. Moreover, if my actions are giving her such ideas, maybe we need to stop being friends. She became apologetic afterwards and told me that she did not mean to disrespect my wife, and it was not her intention. She apologized to me and told me to just let it go. She said that she loves traveling with me and she doesn't want anything to change between us. She again said that I am misinterpreting her statement and just wants to move on. She came to hug me again, but I just told her it was okay and stepped back. I also talked to my wife about the incident that night. As expected, my wife was angry at Mary and told me that she hates the term work husband. She asked me if Mary has ever flirted with me during our trips or has a crush on me. I truthfully told her that I really have not felt that way and she may have just said that because she was a bit drunk and is now being stubborn about it. My wife said that she feels a bit uncomfortable about Mary now and says that it's strike one for Mary and I need to try and put more distance between us while traveling. If she ever repeats the same behavior again, I should report her to HR. I promised my wife that I would try to reduce my interactions with Mary outside work hours and be more guarded around her. Relevant comments. Commenter 8. Mary's description of your relationship sounds really clingy and dependent. She has created a narrative in her head about your connection, that the only man she can trust with any secret in her life. That's not a work husband, whatever that means. You better keep your interactions register in public, this can bite you in the butt very fast. Commenter 9, not the A. I agree you should go to HR so they're aware of the situation. I would also suggest no more business trips with her if possible. The fact that she claims to know you more intimately than your wife is not only delusional and disrespectful, it's concerning. She's only beginning to show her crazy side. Commenter 10, not the A. I also think that if you're married, the terms work husband or wife are very inappropriate. Your wife sounds like a very reasonable person. She's upset but not taking it out on you. You made the right call, and if anything you could even get ahead of the game by going to HR now about the situation. OP, just curious, but what would the HR complaint even be? I feel uncomfortable about the situation, but beyond speculation, I do not see what I can complain about. Commenter 11. Hey HR person, I would like to file something with you just so it's on record. At the moment it feels like things are resolved, but just in case something else happens in the future I just want to cover all bases. Here's what happened. Here's what I did about it. Here's what Mary's response was. Here's where things are at now. I don't want anyone to have another conversation with her at this time because I believe it will escalate things instead of letting things die down. But if she doesn't let things go, I wanted HR to be in the loop. Commenter 12. Not the A, I agree with you, wife. Mary's reaction was so often defensive. Instead of owning it and apologizing, she continued to double down and say that she knew you more intimately. She is quite the presumptuous woman. I 100% believe that this woman has romantic feelings for you, and all these comments about work husband and the ever-lingering hug plus saying she knows you better and more intimately do not speak of someone who has a platonic friendship or professional relationship in mind. I would not travel with her anymore and see if you can put some distance with her and not have to work with her. This woman is going to cause trouble for you. Her reaction was one of possession over you, which comes when someone has amorous feelings. Commenter 13. Okay, never, and I do mean never be in a room alone with this woman ever again. Cause when you go to HR, and you definitely should, in retaliation she could spin any number of accusations against you now, even if you don't think she is capable of that kind of behavior. You're having trouble right now because she is acting in a manner you would not have expected from her. Not the A. Commenter 14. Hopefully you don't have to travel with her, but if they can't change it and you are stuck with Mary, then from here on out no more eating breakfast with her. No more grading meals together. Spend that time FaceTiming your wife, have a breakfast, lunch, dinner date over FaceTime. Let Mary eat alone. Or you take your meals in your room. No more walking around in your gym clothes around Mary. She has already twisted it by saying it was your underwear. If you need to speak to her about anything that has to do with work, simply text her. There's no need to have breakfast with her to talk it over since she already got the wrong impression of you. Keep it through text, no phone calls, just text her. You have your meals separate and have your rooms on the opposite side if need be. Don't ask her to hang out during downtime while traveling. Let her do her and you keep to yourself. Hopefully your work will gladly change you both. Update, edited in post, 8 hours later. Thanks everyone for the comments and explaining the urgency of the situation. I discussed it with my wife and have set up meetings with my manager and HR today. I plan to not file a complaint, but document what happened last week and why it made me uncomfortable. I do not have any upcoming travels this week due to holidays, but have to travel next Tuesday with her to a worksite. I will discuss with my manager what my options are. However, I feel a little distance between Mary and me for some time would be the right solution for now. Editor's note, OP has reported the situation to HR, but he is traveling today according to the above update with her, and there could be further issues, so I am marking this as ongoing. My husband's inattention almost cost our baby's life, but our brave toddler saved the day while I recovered from surgery. Original post, March 11th, 2024. Hey Reddit, I need to share this story because I'm still shaking from what happened. I'm 25 years old and have been with my husband, who is 30, since 2018. We have a 3-year-old daughter and a newborn son. But tonight, things almost took a turn for the worse. My husband has always had trouble paying attention, but I never thought it would come to this. Our neighborhood is oddly laid out, with cars zooming by at crazy speeds at all hours of the day. I was folding clothes when I heard our toddler screaming, "Dad, help!" That tone made me drop everything and sprint outside. What I saw made my blood run cold. Our newborn in his stroller, careening towards the busy street. I screamed and ran to him, barely stopping the stroller in time. My baby girl's hands and knees were scratched up because she tripped trying to run after the stroller. I snatched up my baby, heart pounding, and scanned for my husband. He wasn't watching. He was chatting with neighbors, completely oblivious. The anger I felt was unlike anything I've ever experienced. I stormed up to him, shouting in disbelief. He looked shocked at first, then realized what almost happened. The apologies and tears came pouring out, but it was too late. I couldn't wrap my head around how he could be so careless, so blind to our toddler's screams and the stroller rolling away. I packed up the kids and left, staying with my parents. They're on my side, but my husband keeps texting, begging for forgiveness, calling it an honest mistake. But I can't shake the terror of almost losing my baby because he couldn't focus for a single second. My baby girl got hurt in the process because he couldn't pay attention. I almost lost my son because he couldn't pay attention. I can't stop crying. I feel so guilty. I wish this all never happened. Sorry it's short. I just want to hold my babies and I can't stop shaking every time I think about it. What if I was just 1 second late? Would I have been planning a funeral? The reason I left the house instead of him was because I hate that house. I don't feel like it is safe for the kids with all the traffic, and I was right. It's my husband's workhouse. I can't be running either. I had a C-section less than 6 weeks ago. A lot of people are saying, why wasn't I watching the kids? I was doing their laundry like a parent. He takes them for walks to have bonding time with them. He literally created this by himself. This has never happened before. How was I supposed to know? And people are saying, why didn't I get him checked out? I'm not his mother. He is 30 years old. I'm sick of people acting like I have to parent my own husband while I literally have a newborn. A toddler. And I'm still healing from a C-section that I tore my stitches from when I ran to get my baby. I don't care if it was his ADHD, the court wouldn't care either. If he had killed my child, he would have gone to prison either way. Relevant comments and additional info from OP1 commenter expressed confusion about the situation, questioning why the baby was in a stroller unattended and how the stroller ended up in the road. They pointed out that most parents have experienced near-death situations with their children due to naivety and overestimating a child's awareness. The commenter acknowledged that the husband seemed remorseful and suggested having a serious talk, possibly considering a move instead of immediately contemplating divorce. OP responded by clarifying that she was inside folding laundry when she heard her toddler scream for help. When she rushed outside, she found her husband chatting with neighbors on their driveway, seemingly oblivious to the situation. OP believes her husband must have left the baby in the stroller unattended near the road, leading to the near-tragic incident. She mentioned that a neighbor offered security footage, which might shed more light on what happened. Another commenter suggested considering her husband's ADHD and the role it might have played in his inattentiveness. They emphasized the importance of understanding ADHD and its impact on behavior and life expectancy. They advised OP to communicate her needs clearly to her husband and seek solutions like medication or lifestyle changes to manage his ADHD better. OP agreed, explaining that she was waiting for the security footage to understand the situation fully. She described her house layout and how she could hear her toddler from the open window in the lounge. When she ran outside, a neighbor's wife was already running toward the stroller, and another neighbor was helping her daughter. OP's husband was just standing there, seemingly in shock. A third commenter expressed horror at the situation and concern for OP's well-being, given that she had just had a baby via C-section. They questioned what her husband was doing and suggested that watching small children near a busy street should be treated with the same vigilance as watching them swim. OP replied that she tore her stitches from the C-section and had to go to the ER. While there, she made sure her daughter got her knees and hands bandaged. OP didn't realize she was bleeding until her mom pointed it out in the car. Her mom took the baby boy back to their house, and her dad took OP and her daughter to the hospital. One commenter was confused about the situation, questioning why the baby was in a stroller unattended and how the stroller ended up in the road. They acknowledged that the husband seemed remorseful and suggested having a serious talk, possibly considering a move, instead of immediately contemplating divorce. OP responded by clarifying that she was inside folding laundry when she heard her toddler scream for help. When she rushed outside, she found her husband chatting with neighbors on their driveway, seemingly oblivious to the situation. OP believes her husband must have left the baby in the stroller unattended near the road, leading to the near-tragic incident. She mentioned that a neighbor offered security footage, which might shed more light on what happened. Another commenter suggested considering her husband's ADHD and the role it might have played in his inattentiveness. They emphasized the importance of understanding ADHD and its impact on behavior and life expectancy. They advised OP to communicate her needs clearly to her husband and seek solutions like medication or lifestyle changes to manage his ADHD better. OP agreed, explaining that she was waiting for the security footage to understand the situation fully. She described her house layout and how she could hear her toddler from the open window in the lounge. When she ran outside, a neighbor's wife was already running toward the stroller, and another neighbor was helping her daughter. OP's husband was just standing there, seemingly in shock. A third commenter expressed horror at the situation and concern for OP's well-being, given that she had just had a baby via C-section. They questioned what her husband was doing and suggested that watching small children near a busy street should be treated with the same vigilance as watching them swim. OP replied that she tore her stitches from the C-section and had to go to the ER. While there, she made sure her daughter got her knees and hands bandaged. OP didn't realize she was bleeding until her mom pointed it out in the car. Her mom took the baby boy back to their house, and her dad took OP and her daughter to the hospital. OP updated 11 hours later. Update. The neighbor's wife sent me the footage, and I really can't just wrap my head around it, so my husband was walking with the stroller and my toddler was in front of them when they passed the neighbor's house. My neighbor was outside, washing his car, and my toddler saw his pet cat and stopped to pet it. So my husband stopped. Left my baby on the road. He didn't even bother locking the wheels and walked all the way up the driveway, not even bothering looking back at the baby. He had his back faced to him for about 5 minutes before the stroller just suddenly started moving. I think it's because the road is on a hill kinda, or it could have been the wind. My toddler never went near the stroller. It couldn't be her. The stroller went down the road and my toddler. That's when she started screaming and running for it when she saw it. The neighbor started running after my daughter when she tripped. He tried to pick her up. That's when the neighbor's wife's car comes into frame and she stops and starts running back to the way the stroller is coming. After that, you can't really see anything because it's all out of frame, but you can hear all the commotion. My husband just stood there the whole time, hand on his head with a blank stare on his face. He didn't even do anything when our toddler was crying from hurting herself. He only started crying when I confronted him. What should I do? I genuinely do not know what to do. I'm panicking. This was never the life I wanted for my kids. I don't understand why he was standing there. I have not even gotten a text or a call from him since I got sent the video. It's just been silent. I just can't get the sound of my daughter's screams. That's the sound that no mother wants to hear. I can't explain at the moment, but it felt like my blood went cold. And I just felt pure fear. I never want to watch the footage again. New update. Went back to my husband after he almost killed our newborn. 19 days later, March 30th, 2024, 19 days later. Hey everyone, I posted here a while back about my husband nearly killing our newborn son. I wanted to give a quick update on the situation. After reading through the comments, I decided to go back to my husband. Many of you pointed out that if I left him, we'd end up with 50-50 custody of our kids, which I couldn't bear. So I made the difficult choice to stay, even though my love for him has faded. My plan now is to tough it out until our kids turn 18, and then leave. I'm terrified of getting pregnant again, especially since I'm not allowed to use birth control or get my tubes tied. My parents, who could offer support, are moving away, leaving me feeling trapped. Despite everything, my husband tries hard to make things right. He still treats me with affection and goes out of his way to create special moments for our family. Seeing him bond with our newborn and our daughter fills me with conflicting emotions. I know I can't stand being with him, but I can't bear to separate him from our kids either. He was so happy when we came back home, but I can't stand even looking at him. I feel some guilt because he still calls me by my nickname, looks at me like I'm the only girl in the world, besides our daughter, and he still continues our traditions, like when the kids are sleeping he will go get ice cream and our favorite snacks and sets up a fort on our bed to watch movies on our laptop. Even though I'm sacrificing my happiness, my priority is ensuring my children's safety and well-being. It's a tough situation, but I'm doing my best to navigate it for the sake of my family. This is a throwaway, so I'm gonna log out. Bye. Update 3. July 16th, 2024, 3 months after OG post. Editor's note, added paragraphs for easier reading. As you can see from my previous post, I did go back to him and it was quite literally the biggest mistake I've ever made, but I felt like I really had no choice. No money, family moved out of state a lot. Has happened the past couple of months, so it turns out my husband started taking meds for his ADHD a couple of weeks before I was due to give birth to our son. He took my kids on a walk to cover up the fact that he was also on meth. He took my kids to meet his dealer, apparently every time they went for a walk. Looking back at the footage now, it makes so much sense because of the way he was talking to the neighbor before everything happened. He was kind of leaning to the side. I talked to my neighbor, and I asked him if he knew that my husband was on drugs. He said he didn't, but he noticed that my husband looked a bit off recently. His wife works at a rehab clinic after a fight where I had to flee with the kids to the neighbor's house. She pointed out that the way he was acting was the way that people acted with drug withdrawal. My neighbor and his wife ended up helping me book a flight to my parents. I'm currently with them right now, and I have spoken to a lawyer that my parents are going to help me pay for. I think all the people from my original post that told me to keep the footage because it is going to come in handy. My husband keeps sending me videos of him shooting up and doing other substances. He keeps saying that they are going to fix him. He sent me a video of him standing in our kids' room, and he was just screaming at me, saying that it helped him cope with his ADHD. He took a knife and stabbed both of our kids' mattresses. I am not going back. He even cut up the side of my bed. There's a comment from my previous post that has been sitting in the back of my mind and has been bugging me. I think you know which one it was. It was by their comment saying I don't care if it was his ADHD, isn't going to fix anything and will probably only make things worse. Talking and thinking about it like he intentionally tried to kill your child isn't helpful either. With ADHD, you sometimes do not register things at all. The life expectancy for those with ADHD is actually significantly lower because many end up, often accidentally, killing themselves. It is not the same thing as carelessness, but learning about ADHD more deeply can help you both be safer. Understanding how my ADHD works and using different precautions, tailored to how my brain functions, has likely saved my life. You should outline what you want from him. That probably includes getting his ADHD better under control, whether through prescription medication or more homeopathic methods. Finding a different place to live if possible, and ensuring he doesn't take your kids out in the front yard without you. Also, it's puzzling that neither he nor the neighbor noticed, but you heard your child from inside. Were the neighbors just watching the stroller roll towards the street? Was your husband on the other side of the house where he couldn't see the stroller? Were you already walking outside as this unfolded? I'm trying to understand better what was happening and why your husband or the neighbor did not notice, but you did from inside. People with ADHD tend to be incredibly good and quick to act in emergency situations, so this is especially strange. I'm not accusing you of leaving anything out, but asking you to consider what your husband and the neighbor were doing that neither noticed. That seems suspicious. This is a horrible situation. I lost a pet due to the inattentiveness of ADHD, but I can't imagine losing or even nearly losing a child. What the F? It baffles me that you can even compare losing an animal to losing a child. You made people with ADHD sound completely unreliable for themselves and as if they can't do anything. You made them sound very helpless, and said that the life expectancy thing was completely uncalled for as well. I bet many people with ADHD reading that completely disagreed with you, judging from all the comments and YouTube videos I've seen on my post. I don't know if you're projecting because you lost a pet from your inattentiveness of ADHD, but if you were letting things die in your care, you need to get stronger help. And no, I was not going to lay out what I wanted from him. He's the one that started mixing his meds and was high off his mind every time they went out for a walk. I am not an ableist. I was in a very vulnerable state when I first posted my original message. All I was doing was looking for help and advice, but all I got was where were you? And what were you doing? Why weren't you with the kids? Why didn't you get your husband checked out? I was healing from a C-section. Get that through your heads. I genuinely hope that everyone who said something horrible about me in my original post has to get cut open and then, 4 days later, be forced to run down the street. I gave him another chance, like you all said in my original post, and you saw what happened. Stop using ADHD as an excuse. I genuinely believe that if he had killed my child, you would have defended him. And no, I did not know he was on drugs. To all the people who reached out to me, I am forever grateful. All the parents with ADHD who didn't make me feel like it was all my fault and shared their stories with me made me feel seen. I know exactly how it feels. I hope everyone is doing well. To everyone who defended me, I wish I could give you a big hug and send gift baskets. Thank you all from the bottom of my heart, and I am so sorry about that comment that person made. I know you are all not like that. You are genuinely intelligent, judging from all the comments I've read. I cannot thank you enough. And to the one person who sent me that horrible message, I genuinely hope I run into you one day so I can confront you. If you say anything about my daughter or my son one more time, I will track you down. Logging out. Top comments. First comment. Like, I have ADHD and in my first house I taped all the burners in place so I couldn't turn them on, and in my current one I just turned the gas to the stove off completely. Knowing your limitations is a part of playing the cards you're dealt, and there's a good damn reason I'm not having kids. Why the hell would I put myself in charge of a little suicide machine when a lapse of judgment could cost their literal actual life? Second comment. It's possible to do both. Understanding means understanding that the precautions an ADHD person has to take may look different due to how their brain works, or sometimes prioritizing the essential stuff while letting some small things slide. It never means comprising the safety of your children. Like, I have specific routines to ensure I never leave my purse anywhere. It is so essential that I've basically programmed my brain to get anxious if I'm out of the house and don't feel the weight of the crossbody strap on my shoulder. Which also means, for this to work, I'm limited to only owning crossbody bags. That's the looks a little different. I can't just get a clutch and my whole system collapses. It also means that my water bottles are reused pop bottles because sometimes I leave them places. Which is okay, because I'm not spending any money on them. That's me picking my battles. But there is never a solution of just accepting that I'm going to leave my purse somewhere. It's been years and years since I've slipped up. Third comment. Let's be honest, it wasn't ADHD, it was meth and a total disregard for the children's lives. I have ADHD and am the sister of a 10-year-old boy. Even to this day, I have an automatic reaction whenever a kid trips. One eye is always on a small child, especially one that can walk. Babies should always be within arm's reach. No excuses.
I caught my boyfriend cheating just before his big night. Should I expose him or exit gracefully? What should I do? I won't go into all the gory details of our relationship. We were in love, and well, I still love him. But I found out, clearly he does not. I discovered proof that he has been cheating on me for a while. In the form of small home movies of them. I don't know the girl, and from the looks of their conversations, yep, went ahead and post-discovery snooped. She has no idea I exist. Tonight is the biggest night of my BF's life. He's receiving a state award at a big dinner with a few hundred people attending, from his mom and dad to councilmen and all of that. In fact, the only reason I discovered this transgression is because I've been putting together a little video for him to enjoy some of the key moments of his life. You know, typical sappy shit. I'm burdened with a lot of power right now, and I don't know if I have it in me to do the right thing. Or if I even know the right thing. I'm blinded with tears of rage and sadness and betrayal. But at the same time, I love him, have loved him, and do I really want to do this? The relationship is over, no doubt about it. I am not a woman who will take her man cheating on her, certainly not. That's not the issue. The issue is, there are cutest selfies of the two of them. A lot of them, only shared between the two of them. Nothing lewd, there's plenty of that on camera though. Do I sneak one in the snap reel as a way of letting him know that I know? Or do I simply confront him after his moment in the sun passes? I'm not going to pick up everything and leave without cutting contact. That's not my style and it wouldn't make me feel good, just very sad. Do I do the bitchy thing for once in my life? To anyone looking at the snap reel, it would just look like a picture of him and a friend. But to him and to me, it would be a private message, an outing. Help me, Reddit. I don't know what to do this time. TLDR, found out BF was cheating on me, and have the power to let him know via slipping a photo of the two of them into the snap reel showing tonight. Should I do it or gracefully exit his life? Relevant comments. Comment 1. Nah, you know what? If there's really nothing that anyone would pick up on other than the two of you, you slip that photo into the slideshow. Make eye contact with him when the photo appears on screen. Then, when it's over, you stand up and walk out. It ain't the high road, but nobody needs to walk the high road all the time. OP, I chuckled. I think the only reason I would do this is to make eye contact with him so that he knows I know. But I'm not sure I have the guts to do that. I'm not exactly Olivia Pope. Update. Found out BF was cheating on me, and had the power to let him know via slipping a photo of the two of them into the snap reel showing tonight. Should I do it, or gracefully exit his life? Well, it's been a month and a half since this all went down. I have gotten so many requests for an update and I never intended to actually give one, honestly, because I was afraid of the fallout depending on what I ended up doing. So what did I do? I did the immature vengeful thing. And I don't regret it. I took a few photos of the two of them, tasteful photos that gave off no indication other than she might be a childhood friend. I slipped them into the snap reel. And I spoke kindly of him at the podium. Then after my turn was finished, I walked out. I drove home feeling calm and in control. 20 minutes later, the text started. Where did I go? What did I know? Where did I find the photos? Was there more in store for him? I texted him, I know you've been fucking her. But there are no more photos. There weren't any, and of course I left it at that. He didn't come home that night. Or the next. The next day, he called me to ask me if we could meet and talk at a public location. I agreed to meet him at Starbucks. I arrived early, waited for him. He showed up a few minutes late and took the seat across from me. He started right off with the excuses, how it just happened and he regrets it fully. She doesn't mean anything to him, and that she looked like a girl he had a crush on in high school and he was powerless against his teenage self. I didn't interrupt him, just let him have his time. When he was done and looking at me for a sign of what might happen next, all I could say was, so where did you stay the past few nights? Her house. And what did you do? He wouldn't answer. There hadn't been any doubt in my mind. Really. I knew I was leaving him. He talked over himself, apologizing, begging for forgiveness, saying he'd change. I told him that I didn't want him to have to change himself. That if who he was, naturally, was someone who cheated on his girlfriend, then that's not someone I wanted to be with. He said that he was thinking of proposing to me, and all I could say after that was, good thing I found out before. Fast forward to a few weeks later. He's moved out and I'm doing well. We have cut off contact. People ask me about him all the time, and I just let them know, he left me for a girl who looked like his high school crush. So that's the end. We are broken up. We are never, ever, ever getting back together. I don't feel any regret for how I handled it. Like one commenter said, there's no need to take the high road all the time. I added the photos to the snap reel. He saw them. We broke up and are never getting back together. I don't regret my choice, only that I wasted 3 years with an overgrown child. My church banned our youth worship leader for condemning Christian nationalism. The band plans to walk out during their next performance. My church's youth group has a youth band that leads worship during youth, but the church also has them lead worship on Sunday mornings every few weeks, to promote the youth band when the usual worship team has a week off. I'm not in the band, but I often help with lyric PowerPoints along with another girl, but not when the band plays on Sundays. The main singer of the youth band is the daughter of a youth assistant, and the daughter is an assistant too. We'll call her Emma, she's 20. I'm writing because of what happened the last time the youth band led Sunday worship on 6/30. That led to Emma and her family leaving the church. In between one of the songs, Emma said she felt led to say that Christian nationalism wasn't of God, because forcing people to believe went against the basis of Christianity because God gave free will and too many Christians forgot that. She also said there would be no short and narrow path if people were forced to walk it before saying Project 2025 was advertised as Christian but resembled nothing of God, because God never forced people to believe in him. No one confronted her or anything as it was brief, and they played a few more songs along with the closing song after the pastor finished his sermon. But when we got to youth on Friday night, Emma and her mother weren't there. And we were later informed, by the youth pastor, that Emma and her mom would no longer be helping the youth before a bunch of stuff about giving others the chance to be lead singers because Emma had left the church. However, word got out from one of the band's players that Emma told the band that she got banned during the week and that her parents left the church with her, so they already knew before we found out at youth. The reason I'm making this post is because of a conversation I had with the band and other PowerPoint girl, the same Friday the youth pastor announced it, and the conversation was private from the rest of the kids. Long story short, the band is upset about what happened to Emma, and they've been throwing around ideas on what to do. The one they're heavily considering is a walkout the next time they're scheduled to play on Sunday after playing the intro song. Service opens with an intro song before someone comes on stage to welcome everyone before worship continues, and they would voice support for Emma before walking out together. They haven't told anyone not associated with the band because they don't want anyone to spill the deets. But the main thing we're debating is repercussions from our parents and whether or not it's worth the risk. There's likely a few weeks until the band plays on Sunday again, and they still haven't decided on a new lead singer yet. I also want to add that the church didn't upload the worship portion of the service with Emma and only uploaded the sermon from that day. They always include worship on their YouTube upload of the service. Most of the concerns were around tuition punishments, as some of them have their parents helping pay, but they still want to do something. And while I'm not in the band technically, aside from coordinating PowerPoint lyrics occasionally, I figured the least I could do was get advice from other adults anonymously because we don't want to ask our parents for obvious reasons, and maybe others could see more pros and cons that we can. I appreciate any advice that anyone gives and will relay it to the band too. Thanks to anyone who read this to edit. I forgot to add this detail in my post, but the pastor of our church has used the pulpit to speak politics in the past and has even mentioned support of a presidential candidate on numerous occasions along with other political topics on occasion too, Roe v. Wade and gay rights. So while I agree that politics probably shouldn't be spoken in church, some of the band said that Emma was tired of the often political topics being brought up during sermons, thus why she said what she said. Comments from the first post. Comment 1, OP, I am not Christian, but standing up to the tyranny of Project 2025 is the most Christian thing I've heard. That sounds exactly like what you should be doing against something that represents hate and violence. Christian nationalism is why many people are starting to make fun of or roll their eyes at Christian values. Because from what we see, Christian nationalism is the exact opposite thing Jesus would want or support. I don't believe in him, but I do think God/Jesus would be proud of you. You sound like a good person. Comment 2, hey. I hope you see this despite all of the responses. I was raised Catholic. I consider myself otherwise now, but that is how I was raised, and I was an altar server and lead singer for Mass. I was very involved in my church. My priest was an amazing human being who never brought politics into service. He was so kind and so caring to everyone in the community. When I lost my faith, he was an amazing person to talk to, and he never shamed me. That being said, other people in the church hated this about him and became vocal about it. It was exactly this political behavior that made me turn away from the church in the first place. I thought it was horrible to mix politics and faith. I strongly disagreed with it and wanted no part in it. I started exploring the history of my faith and other faiths. I wanted to know why. Why were we trying to dictate people's lives, when Jesus told us not to? Why were we cruel to the poor and the sinful, when Jesus' message was to forgive? Why, when the church had so much wealth and power, did they wield that power like a club, forcing themselves onto the vulnerable and desperate? In the end, it is all about control. Whether you believe in God or not is one thing. But believing in the church is to believe in a man-made organization. Flawed people created these institutions, and like people, they are flawed too. A community organization has the power to uplift as much as it has the power to control and beat down. And that is what it all comes down to, doesn't it? Your friend could not be controlled. So they kicked her out. And now here comes the big question. Knowing all of this, can your conscience be at peace if you stay silent? When I was your age, I could not. Do what you believe is truly right, even if it's hard. Even if it's uncomfortable. You will always become better for it. Edit. Wow. Thanks for the awards, guys. And OP, if you see this, please update us. I would love to know how this update. I want to thank to everyone who commented on my original post because it was way more than I expected, and many of you had really helpful advice. This is a small update with some really surprising things that happened since. First, the band is still going through with the walkout, and they're keeping it within the band so that no other kids tell their parents who might tell leaders. It would have been awesome to include others, but the risk of the church catching wind was too great. Second, we have a date of 8 quarters when the youth band will do worship for the adults again. Third, the youth pastor appointed a singer from within the group who will take turns singing on Sundays with future participants in the coming weeks. Fourth, the new singer agreed that the church's handling of Emma was BS. Fifth, and most exciting, 2 of the band members told non-religious relatives about the situation and fear of punishment, and they agreed to come to the service and let them head to their cars in the parking lot straight from the walkout, for safety. They won't leave the lot in case some parents try to claim kidnapping, but will be in their cars if all goes well, and the rest of us are going to ask our relatives too. Sixth, one of the band members told a teacher they knew from school who's thinking about coming and walking out too. And seventh, one of the band members wrote a little something that the lead singer will read before they walk off stage. And it would be great if anyone with editing experience could help to make it clearer or provide advice on what to add. They tried to keep it short. I will make a post about their write-up in the near future. Here's how we hope it happens. The band will play the opening song, which officially starts service, and usually lets people know it's starting. Many make their way from the foyer during the intro song. And after someone gives the welcome prayer after the opening song, the lead singer will then give the speech before the band walks off stage, and I will walk out with them from the pews along with relatives' friends. One relative said she might bring some people she knows too, which could make more of a statement to the church to see adults leaving too. One of the relatives will also record the whole thing in case any parents don't react well to it, and I will update after it happens. If anyone has any further advice, it would be appreciated and I'll bring it to the band. Most of the band, outside of 2 seniors, aren't old enough to vote this year, but this is a chance to stand up for what's right against something that is adamantly infusing itself into Christianity, Christian nationalism, and making Christianity lose all of its respect in our opinion. We don't expect change to happen in the church as a result of our walkout, but it's a small thing we can do to say we did our part when faced with it ourselves. Another commenter put it best when she asked if we'd be able to live with ourselves if we did nothing, and the answer has been no for us so far. I also want to add something I forgot to clarify in my first post. Emma didn't say what she did out of the blue. She'd been vocal about the pastor talking politics for some time according to the band, and I've seen much of it too. However, a lot of people sent DMs disagreeing with the band's decision. So before I get into it, I want to give specifics of what the pastor has done. The pastor mentioned Trump from the pulpit numerous times, including the aftermath of the 2020 election, to voice discontent over the results. He has also celebrated Roe v. Wade's overturning from the pulpit, Pride Month during June, and even compared Trump's legal trial to how Jesus was persecuted leading up to his crucifixion. Things that have no place being vented about from the pulpit, and this has happened over the course of a few years. I received a few DMs in the aftermath of my first post, and some were encouraging while others not so much. A few people, who said they were Christians, said that Emma was wrong to use the microphone to hijack the service, with her words, because she should have talked to the pastor first while calling her actions immature. However, when I showed the band the advice from my posts, I also told them about the DMs, and they said that Emma spoke to a leader about the pastor's political sermons in the past. But nothing came from it as he continued to speak politics from the pulpit frequently. Some people also said that our walkout wasn't godly, because we, like Emma, would be hijacking the service for a publicity stunt when church was supposed to be about God. Some people called us immature among harsher things, but we disagree for 2 reasons. First, who is supposed to call out the misuse of the pulpit if not people who attend the same church where it's misused? A few DMs said to do nothing and pray for God to change the pastor's heart, but he's been doing this for years. And second, the Bible gives guidance on how to call out improper behavior in the church in Matthew 18:15, 17. Dealing with sin in the church. 15. If your brother or sister sins, go and point out their fault, just between the two of you. If they listen to you, you have won them over. 16. But if they will not listen, take 1 or 2 others along, so that every matter may be established by the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. 17. If they still refuse to listen, tell it to the church. And if they refuse to listen even to the church, treat them as you would a pagan, or a tax collector. Emma has already talked to a leader one-on-one, and the band has voiced displeasure about Emma's ban to the youth pastor, only for him to disagree and say that Emma was out of line. Regarding the part about, tell it to the church, I suppose the how might be up to interpretation. Maybe telling the church means telling a church leader instead of the congregation on stage. But Emma and the band have talked to various leaders, including an elder too, aside from our youth leader, only for years of political rants from the pulpit to continue. When Jesus flipped tables in Matthew 21:12, we believe he did it because people were using the temple to sell things that had nothing to do with God, and we believe that politics falls into the same boat. Someone commented a link in the comments of my first post that I never saw. But I showed the band, and we couldn't agree more. Pastor Loran Livingston talked about the role of politics in the church and how politics shouldn't be combined with Christianity. I still plan to speak with my parents ahead of 8 quarters, and I'll share the write-up the band is working on really soon. I really appreciate everyone who commented too. Lastly, I want to clarify that the walkout is the band's decision entirely. I am not a member of the band, I just do PowerPoint lyrics during youth, and I'm not even in the band's group chat with Emma. As some of the band members are contemplating punishments from parents, 2 seniors who are concerned with their parents removing tuition help. I will support whatever they decide while understanding that they have to take care of their future too, as many commented. If they decide to continue with the walkout, I will support them and walk out from the pews. But if they change their mind because the repercussions are too great, I will respect that and continue to support them. Comments from the update. Comment 1, my views on religion and churches are a whole other thing. I'm impressed by the conviction to your sense of right and wrong and your need to not sit by while someone spews falsehoods from their platform. A platform which Christians will claim is supposedly a place from which love and truth emanate. Much respect to you and yours. Those telling you to pray on it and that it isn't your place are cowards. Being afraid to rock the boat is how religions get twisted. It sounds like your church is well down the slippery slope of becoming a cult to a guy who, when asked about his favorite Bible verse, responded vaguely, like he hasn't read the book. OP. I was a little surprised when a few of the people who called themselves Christians in the DMs even used profanity against my first post, but change doesn't happen unless it's addressed, and it's not like Emma and the others haven't addressed it with numerous leaders over the years. Comment 2. It is worth remembering that the original idea behind separating church and state was to protect religion from being tarnished by politics. The underlying idea was that religion is a garden that must be protected from the wilderness of the world. This church seems to be a prime example of that necessity. Comment 3. I have a lot of respect for all of you for taking this stand. Christian nationalism has no place in the church. It is completely against the teachings of the Bible. Stand strong in what you are undertaking. You are biblically grounded in your stand. The church was given its mission by Jesus, to preach the good news in order to bring people to Christ. The church is not, nor should it ever be, a mouthpiece for politics. I will keep all of you in my prayers. You are doing the right thing, even though it may feel scary. Standing up against power is never easy. Comment 4. Hey, Christian over here. First, I love that you have biblical references for what you guys are doing. Second, the idea of comparing Trump to Jesus no matter the political views of yourself or the pastor is quite honestly blasphemous, so you're 100% doing the right thing. And third, you might not be old enough to vote yet, but here's the thing, if you have conviction about anything, get passionate. In this case, get mad, rock the boat and use your voice. It's what we're called to do. Will it be difficult and scary sometimes? Yeah, absolutely, but things that matter often are. So what I'm saying is you kids absolutely rock. You're far better examples of Christ-like behavior than your pastor is giving out right now, and mad respect for that. Remember Joshua 1:9 and God's command, as you kids do this, have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. I was kicked out at 16 and struggled for years. Now I have a house, and my sister and her junkie husband have invaded and demanded to live with me. When I was 16, my parents and twin sister kicked me out. I lived in a tent and struggled for years. Now I have a house, and they showed up uninvited with my sister's family, demanding to move in. My sister was the one who convinced our parents to throw me out at 16, claiming there was no space for me. I spent 12 years fighting to secure my own place, and now they want me to let my sister move in because she's pregnant with her 4th child. As a 28-year-old man, I've endured my parents' toxicity since childhood. My twin sister has always been a thorn in my side. People say twins support each other, but in my case, my twin drags me down whenever she can. Childhood bullying wasn't enough. She has reappeared in my life, wanting to move into my house with her family, despite being the one who threw me out at 16. Her narcissism, fueled by our parents' poor parenting, is relentless. They always wanted a daughter and made it clear they would have terminated the pregnancy if it had been just me. I owe my existence to my sister. My sister never missed a chance to flaunt her entitlement. Growing up unwanted in my household was tough. Everything revolved around her. Despite being the same age, I wasn't allowed to touch her toys. She often got new clothes while I only received clothes on Christmas and our birthday. If we didn't share a birthday, they wouldn't have bothered celebrating it. In fact, if I didn't share my birthday with my sister, I wouldn't exist. I got the bare minimum, not out of love, but to save their faces from judgmental relatives. The only positive aspect of my childhood was my grandfather, the only person who saw through their BS. Sadly, he passed away when I was 13. That was the worst day of my life because I had no one to have my back. We lived in a cramped house in the suburbs. My sister and I shared a room, but it felt more like I had a bed and a tiny closet under her room. The entire space was filled with her clothes, toys, and posters. Complaining was not an option, as my parents believed they were doing enough for me. My sister didn't like me being in her room, so I was only allowed in at night to sleep. Even when I was sick, I had to lie on the couch because, as a girl, she needed privacy. I couldn't wait to turn 18 and move out. It seemed my family was even more eager to get rid of me. When we were 16, my sister got pregnant by a 19-year-old loser. His parents had kicked him out after he failed the 8th grade 3 times. My parents got them married, and my dad found him a job as a cleaner at his factory. My father, who works as a mechanic at an automobile manufacturing company, brought him home. Naturally, I had to move out of my room to make space for him. Our house had only 2 rooms and a tiny living area. When I asked if I could sleep on the couch, my father refused, saying he uses it when my mom's snoring becomes unbearable in winter. I was told to find a place for myself. To make matters worse, my loser brother-in-law would say, "Dude, it's not tough to find a place for yourself." My parents threw me out when I was 15, and yet I managed to pull my life together. Now I have a family. Trust me, it gets better out there. I sighed. Yeah, if being a junkie and impregnating a minor means putting your life together, then sure. Most of my relatives lived far away, and my parents threatened me not to show up at any of their places to avoid exposing their toxicity. I asked a few friends if I could crash on their couches, but no luck. Why would their parents allow me in their house when my own parents kicked me out? One classmate living in a garage let me stay for a few months until his parents found out and kicked me out. I slept on a bench on the sidewalk for a few days until the cops rounded me up and brought me home. My parents claimed I had run away. They took me in that night, but my father got me a makeshift tent from a junkyard and told me to set it up in the backyard as a reward for staying silent in front of the cops and not showing up at relatives' places. The tent was still safer than sleeping in the open. Summer was bearable, but winter was brutal. One night, it was so cold I thought I might die from the cold. I knocked on the house but no one responded. Desperate, I knocked on my parents' bedroom window, and my dad yelled from inside not to disturb him or he'd come out and knock me down. I felt so miserable that I wanted to die. I cried the whole night. The next day, I went looking for a job that would provide a place to sleep. A bakery shop needed a worker for their factory about 20 miles away. They agreed to give me a place to sleep and offered me food. They baked at home and needed a helping hand. They offered me to live in their backyard, but I had to clean it up. I agreed. The place was pretty messed up with flour and sugar everywhere, not to mention the rodents living off it. But I was at my lowest point and took the job. I packed my stuff and left. My sister was even happy and said, "Good that you're leaving, we don't have space for you here." No one even bothered to ask where I was going. I cleaned up the place and made it livable. Initially, it was hard to get rid of the rodents that came searching for food, but eventually, I felt comfortable living there. I had to drop out of high school, just a few months shy of the final year exams. My friends urged me to stay in my parents' backyard and finish high school, but I had given up. I focused on my job and lived off my salary. Soon, I realized I needed to upskill to get a better job. I picked up a few skills. My dad is a mechanic, so I grew up playing with his toolbox. It saved my parents from buying me toys, and I also helped Dad with plumbing around the house. I saved up and took a course, eventually landing a job at a car plant. I worked tirelessly to climb the ladder, and now I'm a supervisor. Recently, an old friend was urgently selling his house due to divorce issues and wanted a quick buyer. I was hesitant to buy a 3-bedroom house, but he offered a hefty discount on the market price and allowed me to make the down payment in parts. I jumped at the opportunity. 2 weeks ago, I moved into my new house, and today, I found unexpected guests at my door: my parents, sister, and brother-in-law. It was a shock because I had been no contact with them for years, and they hadn't reached out to me either. This house is nearly 15 miles from their place, so there's no way they stumbled upon it by chance. I'm not in touch with any relatives, either in person or on social media, but I suspect a neighbor might have informed them. I still keep in touch with one of my old neighbors, and he might have seen pictures of my house on Facebook and told my parents. I have no idea how they figured out the exact address, but my dad knew where I worked, so maybe he got it from there. As soon as I opened the door, they barged into my house. Mom and Dad congratulated me and said they were proud of me. I smiled and offered them a chair. I'm still in the process of furnishing the place, so I only have a bed, a few chairs, and a table. My parents sat down and started asking about the house deal. They found it unbelievable that I could buy a house at 35 while they were still renting. Meanwhile, my sister and her deadbeat husband were casually strolling through my house as if planning to move in. I asked them why they suddenly showed up in my life. They said, "Nothing, just checking on you." Funny, huh? They checked up on me when I needed them the least. They started updating me about their lives. Dad has hypertension, my sister has 3 kids, 14, 9 and 4. And she's pregnant again. Well, good for her. I just sat there nodding, debating whether to yell at them or politely ask them to leave. Mom asked if I was getting married or had a girlfriend. I said it's none of her business. She responded, "Why are you so cranky? Is everything all right?" I said everything was fine until they showed up. She laughed and offered to help if settling into the new house was overwhelming for me. Just then my sister announced, "I've decided we're going to take the bedroom with the attached balcony and bathroom." I'm so excited to have my own bathroom. The kids can have the other room. I flipped out and asked, "What the hell is happening here?" My sister said, "You have a 3-bedroom house and you're a single man. You don't need so much space. You used to live in a tent, so getting a bedroom is quite an upgrade for you. This house is big enough for all of us." My parents cut her off and asked her to attend to her youngest son, who was crying for attention. I looked at my parents and asked them what my sister just said. Dad explained that accommodating 7 people in a small house was getting tough. My sister's eldest son, 14, was sleeping on the couch, the middle one was with my parents, and the youngest with my sister. And now, with another baby on the way, they needed a bigger house. I screamed and Mom said, "You know you have a big house now. Can't you take your sister in?" Before she finished I yelled, "Hell no, I'm not taking anyone into my house." My sister screamed that I owed her for bringing me into this world, the same old story. "Mom and Dad would never have had you if I wasn't there. You owe me a place here. Our house is so crowded I can't even breathe." I replied, "Yes, thanks to you and thanks for bringing me into this world. Now get out." Before anyone could say anything, I asked them to leave. Dad tried his tough approach, raising his voice and saying it was my duty as the man of the house to take care of my sister. I yelled back that I had no obligation to take care of her, but as parents, they were obligated to take care of me, and they failed. He was okay with his grandson sleeping on the couch, but when I asked, he refused and threw me out. I ranted about how I survived with rodents in my employer's garage and lived in a dingy apartment for a decade, but none of them ever checked on me. Mom started sobbing and tried to hug me. I blocked her and asked them to leave. Bill said, "Man up, bro. I've lived that life for years and never complained. You have a big house and you're single. What do you need all this space for?" I gestured for him to shut up. My sister started cussing me for shouting at her husband. I said, "Well then, get out if you don't want me to knock him down." I chased them out of my house without letting them speak another word. I'm fuming with anger. They were always toxic and narcissistic, and now they've turned greedy. But I'm not 16 anymore, blindly following their orders like a puppet. If they keep pestering me, I won't hesitate to call the cops on them. Update: my sister and her junkie husband broke into my house. Some of you asked if my sister offered to pay rent. The answer is a big no. She hasn't and she can't afford rent. She and her junkie husband are freeloaders and child-making machines. They've been leeching off my parents for 12 years, and now they want to do the same to me. It's not like my parents are happy about it. I saw the frustration in their eyes during their last visit. But instead of throwing her out, they're trying to offload those lazy bumps onto me. A week after our first encounter, my mom showed up at my house again. This time she didn't beat around the bush and told me I should let my sister move in with me. I said no way. She repeated the same stuff about how difficult it was to accommodate so many people in a small house, blah blah. Still, it was a no from me. Then she tried to threaten me. I should have seen it coming. She said, "See honey, you live alone in this big house and you're gone for 12 hours a day. What if someone breaks in? If a family lives here, it would be safer for you. Plus, you'll get help with cleaning, dishes and laundry." I said, "For the last time, no and go away. I don't want any of you at my house." A few days later, one of my neighbors told me he saw a pregnant woman with a man and a young boy loitering around my property. They were peeping in through the windows, wandering around the backyard, and it seemed like they were trying to sneak in. He's an old man who sits on his front porch all afternoon. When they noticed he was watching them, they went away. He informed me as a goodwill gesture. I thanked him, gave him my number, and asked him to call me if he ever saw them again. My house wasn't equipped with cameras yet. I had intended to install them over the weekend. Who knew they would break in before then? Just 2 days later, I got a call from my elderly neighbor saying he suspected someone had broken into my house. I rushed home in a panic. He was right. My sister and Bill had broken in through the back window. She said, "We didn't have any other options. You were being a jerk and not allowing us. Now we live here, and you suck it up." I was in shock. How far she went to flaunt her entitlement. Bill came out of the room they had turned into their bedroom and said, "It was pretty smooth, huh?" Without thinking twice, I charged at Bill. My sister stepped in between, and I dragged her aside. I punched him in the face. Their 14-year-old son attacked me with a bottle, and my head started bleeding. The blow wasn't severe, and I was on the verge of blackout, but my rage kept me conscious. They all panicked at the sight of blood. My sister called my parents and told them what happened. Bill and his son started cleaning up the mess. My neighbor called the cops. My sister and Bill started apologizing and begged me to spare their son from being arrested. I said, all of you are going down with him. The cops arrived and took my statement. My sister denied all allegations of breaking in and assaulting me. She claimed they were visiting my house, her son played a prank on me, and I accidentally slipped and hurt my head. She said I was mad at them and falsely framing them. What a liar. Meanwhile, my parents arrived and forced me to drop the charges. They all ganged up to make me look like a liar, claiming I was using the cops to settle a grudge against my sister. Thank God my neighbor stepped in and gave his statement, and based on that, the cops arrested them. They had to spend the night behind bars because my parents couldn't afford bail. The next day, they were presented for trial. I went to the hospital to get my wounds dressed. The doctor scanned it for internal injuries. I had to take a couple of days off to nurse my wounds. I pressed assault charges against them and also claimed compensation for my losses, and the court agreed that they should bear it. Meanwhile, my parents tried everything to make me drop the charges, but I threatened to sue them for planning the assault. Her son, being a minor, was dealt with according to juvenile law. He got a week in a juvenile facility, and his parents had to pay for restitution, lost wages, and medical bills. My sister and Bill were heavily fined but pleaded to trade part of it for community service. It's been a week since then, and it's been silent. I hope they've learned their lesson and stay away from me. Update 2. It looks like my parents aren't off my back yet. Yesterday, they showed up at my house again. I slammed the door in their face. They stood outside for almost an hour, requesting me to hear them out. Finally, I had to let them in. I wish I could just yell from the window and threaten them like Dad did to me 12 years ago. Anyway, I asked them why they were at my door again. They both started sobbing and said they needed my help. I said if this had anything to do with my sister, then count me out. They said it was about them. Dad said, "You see, I'm growing old and fragile. I cannot work as before. Our house hasn't been repaired in many years. Everything is falling apart." I cut him off and said, "Come to the point." He and Mom wanted to move in with me. As a responsible son, I should take them in. I should have if they were responsible parents, but they were not. I asked what would happen to their house and if they were going to terminate the lease. They said they were going to give that house to my sister. I was like, oh cool, you guys have taken an alternate route to exploit me. Earlier you tried to dump my sister on me, that plan failed. Now you want to pile on for one last time. My house is not up for grabs, not for anyone. They said my sister was offering to pay me rent for living in my house, which I could use to pay the mortgage. I said, I don't need her rent. She doesn't need to worry about my mortgage. She should look out for herself instead. Mom started crying that it was becoming very difficult for my sister to make ends meet. She doesn't even get proper sleep because her children sleep in the same room. I said, it's not my problem if she is mindlessly expanding her family without financial planning. They said, what can we say? You're not agreeing to anything. You don't want to take in your sister, and you won't agree to take us in either. You should at least let us move in with you. The house is too big for one person. I replied, I don't plan to remain single forever. They tried to emotionally manipulate me, insisting that I should take care of my aging parents. I screamed, karma is real. Remember how you threw me out of the house? This is what you get in return. I opened the door for them, and they left with bitter faces. I don't care what they call me, but I'm not going to be a doormat and give in to their demands. I have face blindness, and my BF's tests are overwhelming. How can I clearly communicate that this behavior is hurtful and unacceptable? Hi y'all, sorry for posting this. If it's not okay, I can delete it. I've been with my BF for almost a year now. I love him dearly, and he loves me too, I'm guessing, but there's one thing that's causing a lot of issues for us. I suffer from prosopagnosia, face blindness, which means it's really hard for me to recognize people's faces. I usually go by other characteristics to put a name to a person, like hairstyle, facial hair, marks, skin colors, accessories, etc., but it's still really tough. It's caused me severe anxiety and other mental health struggles. I'm lucky to have wonderful people around me though, who are aware and try to help. They'll introduce themselves when we start talking, wear something they know I've linked to them, or whatever. Usually my BF does this too, but sometimes he likes to test me and it's incredibly stressful. He shaved off his beard once, a few times he wore a completely different style of clothing, or changed his hairstyle, all without warning me. In those moments he won't tell me who he is, or say someone else's name, just to see if I'll figure out it's him. He'll make jokes saying he'll try to switch with one of his friends and see if I'll stay loyal. I usually do realize it's him, but it causes me a lot of anxiety. We've had big fights on this. He says he's allowed to change his look. I'm not a cartoon character. I ask him to warn me. Don't get me wrong, he cares about me, but I don't think he gets how stressful it is. How do I make it clear? We have a lot of great times together, there's just this bump. Update. It's hard to imagine I made this post 19 hours ago and now I'm in the middle of breaking up with him. I'm very tired so I'm going to keep this short. I went to talk to him, showed him this and told him he can't do it anymore. The conversation was a lot. First he was angry I made this post, then he was angry I was taking it all so serious. Lots of apologies and so on. He again said he was just trying to make a tough situation more light. I said it's too much. He said I can't take a joke and I need to let him be him. That he always tells me when he's been joking and if he was really keen on hurting me he'd just do things and not tell me, so his telling proves he cares. That one made me feel uncomfortable. At one point he said he just wanted to test if it was real, because I could just be using it as an excuse to do anything. I left after that cause we were just going in circles. There was a lot of me making an issue of one small thing. I'm exhausted. He's still blowing up my phone with love and apologies, but you guys made me realize a lot. Thanks, really. I'm trying to stay rational about it, but it's hard because I do care about him a lot. I'm gonna get a few hours of sleep. Thank you again. Relevant comments. Comment 1. He is messing with your safety. Does he not realize that? OP. I don't think he realizes how confusing it all is. There was a moment he did the opposite, acting all weirded out when I thanked him for a nice date, saying it wasn't him, and though I knew it was, I still started to doubt myself. He did say it was a joke soon after, but it caused such a panic. He hasn't done it again, but it took me a long time to feel comfortable again. Comment 2. Making someone feel unsafe is not a joke. Gaslighting someone you care about is not a joke. Comment 3. Holy smokes, that's terrifying. Not to recognize a familiar face with a major change like that. That is like nightmare fuel. That your BF does it to you multiple times on purpose is scary. I don't know if there is a way you can explain it to him if he doesn't get it. It seems he enjoys your panic, which is not a good thing for a partner. If this was my partner, I would get a tattoo or something. And I don't have any. OP. My dad actually got a tattoo on his arm for me, which is a great comfort. I hadn't realized how messed up everything is until reading all these replies. Comment 4. Your boyfriend is basically abusing you in emotional situations. He thinks it's hilarious you struggle and get severe anxiety, which isn't normal, nor does it mean he cares about you. This is a huge red flag. OP. Abuse is a really big word, but I do agree it's not okay. I'm seeing him soon. We'll see how it goes. Update 1. Hi y'all, hope it's okay. I will post a little update. Things went batshit crazy. A lot has happened in the last days. I'm really grateful to you all, honestly. I wasn't aware about the real meaning of his pranks and what it said about him and our relationship. I went to talk to him the same evening I made that post, with the intention of making clear he can't pull all that anymore. The conversation escalated. We talked for hours into the night and every day since. There's been a lot of messages. He got angry about the Reddit post I made. I showed him. Angry at you guys. Angry that I couldn't take a joke and listen to strangers. Said things like he in the beginning didn't believe I actually suffered from it, and would use it as an excuse to cheat on him. That now he does believe, but, due to bad breakups in the past, he has a hard time trusting I won't use it as an excuse regardless. Said he was joking about it because he wanted to make a tough situation lighter, and that's just his sense of humor. That if I loved him, I'd accept that. When I made it clear I was done, it got even worse. He began apologizing a lot. Said he didn't realize it was such a big thing for me. Again, didn't make any sense with all said before. In the same breath he said that he at least told me. To the people who thought he actually had planned to trick me by using one of his friends, I think y'all may be very right. To be honest, I was done. I do care about him a lot. Can't just shut that off, but it's never going to work. There's been many messages / calls / etc. He dropped some vague hints that sometimes he pulled pranks I wasn't aware of. I don't know if that is true, or he's just in a bad place right now. He also came to my place to apologize again. But I suspect he didn't expect I'd immediately recognize him, as he didn't apologize till I said his name. He's not evil, but just very messed up. I blocked him everywhere, told him not to show up anymore and that a friend would give him his stuff. I'm going to delete this account soon, but I wanted to thank you guys for helping me realize it. I genuinely don't think I would have. I'm heartbroken, but a bit relieved as well. Thanks for all the support and kindness. Relevant comments. Comment 1. I'm glad you broke up. Someone who loves you should never do that to you. Just curious about your condition. Do you also have issues with recognizing voices as well as faces? I can only imagine how hard it must be to deal with. OP. Actually, voices are one of the traits I go by to recognize someone. Voices, posture, tattoos, hairstyle, and so on. Thank you loads. Update 2. This is probably a bit stupid, but that boy has got me questioning my own mind. Either way, sorry if this is a bother. I broke up with my BF a few weeks ago. I had realized, in part thanks to Reddit, that some of his behavior was absolutely not okay, and when I tried to talk to him, the conversation escalated to me breaking up with him. I have a pretty severe case of face blindness, prosopagnosia. It means I can't recognize, remember people's faces and go by other characteristics to try and put a name to someone. Voice, hairstyle, posture, etc. People around me know and introduce themselves when we meet and other things to make it easier. I have a lot of anxiety because of it. He used to try and test me, which gave me a lot of stress. Changed up his look without warning to see if I knew it was him, and a lot more. He called it pranks. He is a jokester. So we broke up. It's been a lot. He'd been calling and messaging nonstop with both apologies and non-apologies, till I blocked him. In moments of a lot of emotion, I said things like I never wanted to see him again, and he'd reply that he was hurt, that I wouldn't even know if it was him and I was lucky he wouldn't do it. Made me feel icky. He contacted me again yesterday, through a new account, saying he just wants one more face-to-face conversation, if only to give him his stuff that is still at my place and get some closure so we can both move on. I said my plan was to get a mutual friend to bring it over to him. He was hurt. He did seem a lot more calm than before and told me we were together for a year. He just wanted one conversation after I suddenly broke things off. that he had some time to process now, etc., and that he doesn't understand how he suddenly, after a year of loving each other, became so evil I couldn't have one chat with him. But I don't feel good about it. My gut is telling me this will not be a good conversation. My worst fears are telling me he might play a trick to prove some point. AITA if I don't reply anymore, well, just say no. Edit, I didn't expect all these replies. I hope it's okay to respond like this. Thank you all, really. I think I knew already but somehow started to doubt myself. The past weeks have been a lot. I really appreciate and need these words. I'm ready for all of this to be over and done with. Also, just a little thank you in general. Reddit's been a wonderful community and it's helped me a lot. Update 3. It's been a wee bit, and since I'm still getting messages about this, I thought I'd just give one big update for this. So more than a month ago I broke up with my BF because he kept pulling pranks involving my face blindness. I can't recognize faces and am dependent on other aspects to recognize someone, and even then it's still confusing. After that he'd been bugging me that he wanted to meet up, so we could get some closure. My gut was telling me not to, but I felt guilty. With you guys' advice, and my own gut feeling in mind, I decided not to go. I asked a friend, Roger, to go bring him his stuff and kept him blocked, including blocking the new accounts he'd made. Roger came back with a letter from him, to me. The letter in itself was apologetic. He even said he was grateful for our time together and took full responsibility. It ended with him saying he'd respect it if I chose not to reply or message. Honestly, a lot of very respectful words. I still decided not to get in touch. Still trying to get over the breakup myself. But I did appreciate it, till I found out he wasn't letting go like he said. Roger and some other mutual friends let me know he was asking them about me. A lot, if I had read the letter, if I was seeing someone else, already. And so on. Couple of days ago he showed up at my place. He was clearly not sober and upset. He just seemed so broken, so I, stupidly, let him in. For a while he was just being miserably nice, while I got him water and stuff. But the more sober, the more angry he got. At that point I messaged basically everyone I knew to come. I didn't think he'd hurt me, but I didn't feel comfortable being alone with him regardless. Among the many accusations of me not even having the decency to reply, that I clearly never cared about him and that I was a horrendous person, he told me I cheated on him and didn't even know it. So how could I blame him for not trusting me? I'm not gonna lie, I was trying to stay calm but failed. And I know I should have not lost my cool. I screamed at him, asked him what he was talking about. Apparently on a night out with him and others, he asked his friend Mike, who knows of my face blindness and has similar characteristics as my ex, apart from a different voice and smell, to swap out with him and kiss me. And I didn't know. I don't know if he's lying or not. But knowing I was drinking and in a crowded loud room, I know it's a possibility. Especially since Mike tried to kiss me another time, though then I immediately realized it was him and lost my shit at him. When I told my then BF, he was more angry than I had ever seen him, so IDK if the time was a plan as well or not. Either way Mike is a disgusting human. I know it's just a kiss, but it did make me sick to my stomach just thinking about how they might have played me. I told him to get out, he didn't. Luckily it didn't take long for some people to arrive and get him out. I'm endlessly grateful for the people I have around me. I'm staying at my parents' place now, took a break from work and I'm looking into therapy. My mom and dad, who got a tattoo years ago just so I would never doubt it's him, are treating me like a princess and reminding me of the kindness people deserve. Haven't looked into a restraining order, but might if it continues. Thanks to you all for helping me see what's right in this situation. Reddit has been a wonderful community I am very grateful for. I probably won't update anymore, as this is over and done with. But I'm glad I got to pour my heart out to y'all. Update 4. We broke up nearly 3 months ago. It wasn't pretty. There were a lot of things not right between us. Among other things, he kept joking with the fact that I have a severe case of face blindness. I wasn't perfect in this relationship either BTW, not trying to make him the villain. Usually I go by voice, obvious traits and so on. I'm lucky enough to have a lot of wonderful people around me who'll introduce themselves once we start talking, warn me if they change their looks or even wear something that'll help me, like my dad who got a tattoo just for me. But it's still hard and gives me so much anxiety. So maybe I'm imagining it all? I stayed with my parents and cousins for a while after the breakup, but since I'm home, I feel like he's still around. The first time, I went to a club with a friend and her BF, started dancing with a guy and went outside with him to get some air. The moment we stepped outside and I heard his voice, I knew it was him. I was so sure. I freaked, went inside again and left with my friend. I messaged him later and he denied it vehemently, telling me he was not even near there. That we can meet up and talk if I want. My friend says she's not sure. She was off with her BF and didn't see him. So maybe I'm wrong. My gut says it was him, but I can't trust my brain with these things. There's been more incidents like this since. If I go out, sometimes I just feel like he's there. Like I'll see a guy focused on me and will know it's him, but he'll deny it. Or someone will come to my job and I'll recognize the voice, but he responds so confused and I'll feel like a crazy person making a scene, so I just quietly give him what he needs. I'll go to the grocery store and a guy will suddenly be next to me. He won't even say anything to me, but the smell traits tell me it's him. But then later he denies it all. It's not every day, or something. Once a week, maybe not even that. But it's enough to make me feel so on edge. The thing is, I could be wrong. Maybe it was never him. I don't go out a lot anymore, unless I'm with someone. I keep my phone in my hand in hopes of snapping a picture to show to my friends. Looking into how to get a camera. I don't know what else to do, really. I'm afraid if I talk to others about it, they'll simply dismiss it. At the same time, he's still messaging me, just as kindly as when we first started dating. He says he's worried about me, that he wants to help. And I just feel like I'm going crazy. Maybe I am. Update 5. I have a quite severe case of face blindness, but have my own ways to get around, like all of us. But still, I can never be completely sure who's in front of me until they confirm it. I'm sure you know the feeling. Now I have had wonderful people in my life who make it so much easier for me. But have you had people who don't do that? My previous BF messed with me sometimes, and I sometimes worry he might still be. But it's hard to be sure, when I can't trust what I see. Sometimes I'm so sure it's him, but he'll deny it, and I can never convince myself to be 100% certain of what I saw. Do you have any things you did to deal with people who messed with you? Or didn't you take your prosopagnosia seriously? New update. First, thanks to the mods for allowing me to post this update. I don't know if anyone will see this, but I keep getting messages about this, very kind ones, for which I'm grateful, and thought I'd just do a wee update. I'm not in the best place mentally, so I will keep this short. This will also be my last one, as Liv taken plenty of your time as is and don't really know what to do with the attention, though I'm extremely appreciative of all the support and advice. I posted here a while ago about how I wasn't sure if my ex was messing with me, and my face blindness, or if I was just being paranoid. I now know it's both. I really did feel like a crazy person. The day I made the post, I broke off contact with him again. I got a few more messages from him, all kind and concerned-ish. Even some mutual friends, and one girl I barely know, reached out saying they were worried because of what my ex told them. But here's the thing, I did manage to subtly make two videos, 2 different times, in which my parents could clearly see him. Honestly, I was an absolute mess. Since then, I've also been staying with my parents again and took a break from work. We're trying to look into a restraining order, but it's not that easy. There's some redemption though. A friend did what I didn't have the balls to do and completely exposed him. Got some very angry messages from my ex after, in which he, among other things, said he just happened to be in the same place, but now I'm making him out to be some kind of stalker because of my insecurities. Doesn't explain why he didn't just say it was him though. Or how it happened at least twice in less than 2 weeks. That's where we're at right now. I wish I could tell you more. I'm kind of stuck right now. I have no proof about the previous times. Even more so, there's been moments in the past weeks I also thought it was him, and it wasn't. Either confirmed by video, or because I wasn't alone. Then there's been some times in the last weeks where I didn't manage to get any recording, photo. Though I'm relieved to have some answers, I'm also heartbroken. I don't know how to process knowing there's people that'll abuse my flaws in this way. I feel incredibly paranoid and it's exhausting. I'm looking into moving away. At the same time, I'm hopeful this is the end of it, that him getting exposed will be the end of this. Multiple people have told him to back off and leave me alone. I'm happy to be home with my parents for now. I'm safe, thanks for all the advice. Relevant comments. Commenter, dude is an abusive psycho. Put him on blast. He has serious mental problems. OP, I'm gonna sound like an absolute idiot, but I still often feel conflicted about it. I wish he'd just admit to everything. There's a lot of things that feel uncertain and I'm having a hard time letting those go. Like, I only have proof about those 2 times. What if he's right and it was only those 2? Still wouldn't be okay, but IDK, either way, just hope it all ends here. 3 weeks ago, I got beat up defending 2 girls. My girlfriend felt unsafe, grew distant, and moved to her parents, leaving me to recover alone. First of all, I want to thank every single one of you who commented on my last post. The love and support I received was immense and it actually made me feel a little better in the mess of it all. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. All of the following happened yesterday, so excuse me if I ramble a bit, it's all fresh in my mind. Original post. Mandatory. I have been with my GF Sarah for 3 years and been living together for 1.5. She is honestly everything I have ever wanted and I am planning on proposing somewhere next year. So 3 weeks ago I was out with Sarah at a local bar drinking and having a great time with her as it was just after quarantine had ended where I live. At around 3 a.m. we decided to head home. As we headed to the parking lot where we had parked, we noticed a group of 2 girls and a guy who was clearly drunk trying to hit on them and get them to go to his house. The girls were clearly very uncomfortable and trying to find a way out. Sarah told me that we had to do something and I told her to go call the cops and get someone as well because the very least I wanted was her to get hurt during this. So I approached the group and tried to pretend I was the boyfriend of one of the 2 girls and long story short I got my ass kicked. The guy was at least 6 feet 4 and 220 pounds whereas I'm 5 feet 11 167 pounds. I'm fairly muscular myself but there was no way I could have taken someone that big, I knew it from the start. At least from all the noise we had made, a lot of people rushed to the scene and the girls got away safe. I was rushed to the ER because the motherfucker had broken my ribs which had punctured my right lung. Yay. After that incident Sarah has grown distant from me. Even though she visited and stayed with me at the hospital she hasn't been the same since. And I thought she just needed time to move past this. However 5 days ago she told me that she is not the same person after what happened and she doesn't know if she feels safe with me after I got beat up like that. Honestly hearing that hurt me more than when I got my ribs broken. She has moved to her parents for the time being and she told me she needs time. Meanwhile I had no one here to help me so my brother left his 2 boys and wife to move in with me. I know I'm just venting at this point, but I don't want this to be over like that. Reddit, is there anything I can do to salvage the situation? Update. Until yesterday it had been 14 days since my last contact with Sarah. My brother had left 4 days prior because I felt bad keeping him away from his family for so long, plus I could take care of myself to some extent. So around 2 p.m. while I was making lunch I heard the doorbell ring. I go to open the door and there she is. Sarah. With tears in her eyes, eye bags, frizzy hair, looking like a total mess. During the time we've been together I've seen her in her ups and downs, but I'd never seen her in such a horrible state before. So I let her sit on the couch. We still hadn't said a word as we were both dumbfounded. I was so overwhelmed by emotions, I wanted to hug her. I wanted to full blast her. I didn't even know what I wanted to do. So I did nothing and waited for her to talk. After 5 or 10 minutes of silence she starts sobbing and saying she's sorry and then crying. At this point I can barely hold myself together. So I hold her hand and try to calm her down so I can figure out what is going on. After a while she finally somewhat calms down and starts talking. And that's where it got bad. Something that I didn't include in the original post, because it wouldn't make sense anyway, is that Sarah's mother has been divorced and remarried once. From what Sarah has told me, her biological father cheated on her mother while she was still a kid and that's why they broke up. And that's also why she doesn't have any kind of relationship with her father. It seemed odd when I first learned about it, but I didn't question it. That is not the whole story though. Sarah's biological father didn't only cheat on her mother. He was a drug addict that also used to beat her up frequently. Without getting into a lot of graphic detail, in one instance when Sarah's brother tried to intervene and protect her mother he ended up getting beat up too. So when she saw me intervening and getting my ass kicked in the bar incident, it triggered some kind of PTSD in her head that she could not control. That's why she had grown distant and eventually left. It all spiraled out of control and she could not handle it. In those 2 weeks we'd been apart she'd barely eaten or slept and even made some really dark thoughts which I'd rather not go into. She told me as a horrible girlfriend for leaving me alone in my condition and that she doesn't expect us to be together again after that, which I told her isn't the case. So we have a very long road ahead of us. My number one priority right now is getting her to see a therapist, which I suggested we can do together if she's scared to do alone. So yeah, that's where we are at. Some of you were right, that there was some deeper issue behind what happened, but I could not have possibly known. I also wanted to take this opportunity to say something that I got messaged about a lot. I got a lot of comments and messages saying that I was a moron for what I did at that parking lot and that I should mind my own business next time and not play the hero, etc. First of all, I did not initiate the fight with the dude. As I said when I got there, I tried to pretend I was the boyfriend of one of the girls in case. When that didn't work, I got between the girls and the dude, trying to create some space between them, and that's when he started to push me and eventually started throwing punches. Secondly, no matter how hard I hit the gym I would never be able to take that guy one-on-one. As I said, I'm pretty fit and I've been working out for several years, but the fella was a lot bigger than me. Unless I had a gun or something, which isn't legal in my country, I was doomed. Finally, for the people telling me to mind my own business, well, let me tell you exactly what I was doing. It is mine and everyone else's responsibility to look after the ones who can't protect themselves in this shitty world. No, I do not consider myself a hero, nor did I do it for the show. I did it because in some other instance one of those girls could have been my girlfriend, sister, mother needing help. And these girls were somebody else's girlfriend, sister or mother. If I was put in that situation 100 more times I would act the same. Edit. I also talked to her about the proposal I wanted to make this year. I was planning on doing it as a surprise, but in the way things have turned out I figured it would be better if she knew it first. We both agreed it should be delayed for now. A stranger on the internet messaged me to let me know that my boyfriend and I are all over a couple swapping site. Throwaway, because all of my friends know my main goal. And I'm sorry if the grammar in this post is all over the place. It's late here and I'm kind of freaking out. For the sake of privacy I'm going to call my BF Ryan, and the guy who messaged me Craig. Background: been with Ryan for 6 months, the relationship is fun and great. Now let's just get straight to it. I was browsing social media before bed when Facebook alerted me that a non-friend was requesting to send me a message. Curious, I opened it and was greeted with a shock. He stopped replying after my second question. Craig. So, heard that you two are into couple swapping, etc. LOL me. What? Craig, y'all are all over a site for that. Not trying to be a creep at all or odd about it. This would be our first time doing anything like that. Me, can you send me screenshots of that stuff? Sorry if I sound rude, I don't think you're creepy. It's just that as far as I know my partner and I aren't on any sites for swapping or anything else sexual. Ryan isn't picking up his phone. It's late. I think that someone might have taken our images and put them on some sort of sexual meetup website, and I have no clue what the etc. entail. And since we were contacted by a man in his 30s, the site must say that we're older than the 18-19-year-old kids we are. I'm also scared because Craig's profile says that he is from the same city that Ryan and I are from, so whatever site we're on has our relative location on it. Maybe Ryan has something to do with it. I want to know how I should proceed from here. Please help. A stranger approached me for a couples swap and alerted me to the fact that my BF and I are all over a swinger site. I don't know how to proceed. Update 1. So after posting this last night I was exhausted and fell asleep. Craig messaged me again a half hour ago and then stopped responding. I'm hoping for screenshots soon. Craig. Sorry I was asleep. I'll try to find that stuff. My wife and I deleted our profile. Me. Yeah, sorry about this mess. IDK how this could happen unless there were bots or my BF was trying to cheat on me. Craig, no, he wasn't trying to cheat. The profiles had both of you. At this point, I'm afraid it's Ryan. I don't want it to be. He won't answer my text. Update 2. Thank you to everyone who has responded. Something I didn't make clear in the original post is that the first message from Craig was from early January. I hadn't seen it until last night because my Facebook settings have it so I only get alerted to messages from people who aren't my friends, nor have I been given permission to talk to me when I'm in the app or on the website. Last night was the first time I had gone on Facebook in about a month. At this point, I'm just waiting to hear back from Ryan still. I'm leaning towards Craig as just some creep, but Ryan's silence is becoming increasingly worrying. I still am going to check swinger sites to make sure none of my pictures are being used. I will update again when this is all figured out. Relevant comments. Comment 1. As a couple that regularly participate in swinging sites, this kind of shit is incredibly common. A guy derives pleasure from sexual chat and fantasizes about either participating in threesomes or engaging in partner swapping. So he'll create a profile without his SO's knowledge and pretend to be swingers so he can chat with real swingers. It's incredibly frustrating as real swingers, and incredibly common. They are pretty easy to figure out after some experience also. The way it normally happens is we start chatting with a couple. After a couple days, we realize that we have only communicated with the male half. We ask for the two women to voice verify via phone or Skype so we know both couples are who they say they are. Dude ghosts or deflects back to sex talk. Reverse image search often leads to their FB profiles. Or searching their email, or their names and location. Regardless, it's easy enough to find them since most guys that do this aren't exactly careful. At that point, a decision is made. Either we're pissed off enough at the dude that we'll contact his SO over FB and rat him out, or we just make a note and move on. We actually busted my cousin's best friend's fiance doing this. Tracked down the asshole's FB profile, found he was a mutual friend with our cousin, and then found he was engaged to cousin's best friend. As we suspected, she didn't know he was doing this. So as a couple who have been on the other end of this, we're leaning towards your BF being an asshole rather than this being a scam. OP. How should I approach him about this? I don't have any evidence besides the messages from Craig. Comment 2. It is difficult. He has the trusty fallback that real swingers keep in our pocket if anyone were to stumble across our profile on a site. Oh shit, someone stole our pics and made a fake profile. And yeah, it never happens. If people steal pics, it's not vanilla pics from Facebook. Unless you two are Ken and Barbie with very racy pictures on FB, your pics weren't stolen. So you need cooperation from Craig. You need to know which site he found you on. Create a fake profile on that site and find other profiles in your area. Chances are you will stumble across the suspected account. Also browse the MW4MW ads on Craigslist and see if any of the pics or descriptions match you guys. But really, without Craig's help, there's nothing you can do besides snooping on internet history on all PCs and phones. Hopefully Craig will cooperate. Swingers are big on honesty and consent. It's what differentiates us from cheaters. So hopefully he'll give you the details out of a sense of morality. There is always the chance that this is an innocent mistake. Maybe he tracked down the wrong person by mistake. But honestly, we've lived this exact scenario 3 times in the past year alone. It's very, very common for men to catfish couples. When we were new in the lifestyle and didn't know any better, we even had a few "my wife can't make it tonight. Do you mind if it's just the 3 of us?" attempts. OP. Yeah, none of my pictures on Facebook even show my body in any capacity. Only my face. Comment 3. Without evidence, all you can do is tell your BF what happened and gauge his response. Without assistance from Craig, you have nothing to go on. I just hope your BF doesn't have nudes of you, because we've been sent countless nudes of wives and girlfriends by catfishing husbands, boyfriends. I really hope for your sake that I'm wrong and this is just a case of mistaken identity. Maybe we're just sour because it's happened to us so many times. I really hope so for your sake. But the circumstances sound just a bit too familiar. Final update. Thank you so much again. All of y'all have made this day easier. Also, I want to mention that I hope I never came across as shaming the swinging community. All of y'all from that community were so kind and helpful, and my problem with all of this wasn't that the concept of swinging was scary, just the fact that my information and photos were being used without my knowledge. So let's get to it. Ryan ended up texting me that he wanted to see me. I got a bad vibe, so I asked him to call me instead. You all were right. It was him. Apparently the fantasy of swinging was a special kink for him and he used those sites to masturbate. I couldn't find the profiles on any sites because he had listed our ages as 23/24 and I had been searching for couples 18/19. Craig couldn't find our information because when Ryan received my text last night he went into damage control mode and deleted everything. He had used inappropriate photos of me to lure people into chatting with him. I'm young and relatively attractive, so I guess I was a good bet. I threatened to call and tell my dad, who is a sheriff, about all of this if he doesn't take down all of it. I'm meeting him at a coffee shop tomorrow to look through his phone and laptop to ensure all my photos are gone. Needless to say, we're done. Craig said he was sorry and that he didn't want to speak with me ever again. And that him and his wife only were interested in swinging because they thought Ryan and I were hot. I still don't know how the fuck he found me on Facebook, and he stopped responding. So I blocked him. Today was kind of a shit day. Relevant comments. Comment 1. OP, I read your updates and I am so sorry that this has happened to you. Needless to say that I think it was very good that you so firmly decided to not give him another chance. I just feel that I have to say one more thing. I would tell your dad anyway. Even if Ryan shows you an empty phone and an empty laptop, you have no idea if he's made a backup somewhere, an extra hard drive or a cloud service. Besides, your photos were out on the internet for God knows how long. There's a big chance that someone else have these photos on their computer now. There's a reason why posting images of unknowing participants is illegal. I recommend that you tell your dad and report Ryan OP. Yeah, I'll definitely talk to my dad. It's going to be an awkward conversation, but you're right. Ryan did something terrible to me, and who knows who else he's stolen photos from.